scab for the bosses. Don't listen to their lies. Us poor folks haven't got a chance unless we organize. Which side are you on?
We're here. Hey guys.
Which side are
Hello.
you on?
Welcome to our podcast, Remarks.
Which side
The
are
conversation
you
style
on?
podcast. I'm Taylor.
I'm Phoebe, and we have a special guest with us this week. Say hey.
Hi, I'm Rylee.
And Rylee is here to talk with us a little bit about medical marijuana, homeless outreach, community outreach, and other shit like that. So yeah, we're just gonna...
The usual rants.
You
but
know.
with someone else.
Our favorite shit to talk about.
Someone who's more qualified than us.
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
No, but I appreciate it. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Excited to always get the opportunity to talk anything and everything community.
Yes.
So it's definitely important, especially in our little small lake city of this community. So thank you.
Truth. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, do you want to hit the first question?
I would love to.
Okay.
So yeah, starting us off here, one thing that we know you do is work with medical marijuana at a dispensary. My first question with that is, what has been your experience working at a dispensary in Utah, being that it's more of a conservative state, that it was kind of, I'd say, one of the states that was more resistant to, like, medical marijuana for a long time, because it's, you know, the devil's lettuce.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting coming from, especially I went to University of Oregon.
Ooh.
And
yeah, big difference.
Yeah, a big difference being in Oregon. That was my first time being in a state that it was recreational. So totally different vibes there. Different in California, right? When you go into a dispensary, you're there to get high. You're there to, pick out something that's gonna take the edge off a little bit.
Sure.
There's different reasons, right? Everyone wants to partake in marijuana.
Right.
I mean, it's a great plant and it's a great resource. And studies have shown and proven that. So with that, there being the recreational use, we also have to look at the medical use, right? Because it is a plant, it's not a drug. It's a plant that is used for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
And so I think focusing on the medical aspect of a medical cannabis pharmacy is really important in Utah, because people are able to see that side, that it is a medical, it's a medical plant.
Right.
It is something that I'll just share my story kind of.
Yeah.
So I'm a patient. I'm a cannabis patient here in the state of Utah. Because, sorry, I'll start over.
You're good.
So I am a medical cannabis patient, and that's how I first started being kind of introduced here in Utah, was because of my experience in Oregon, using it recreationally, but also learning while using it, like, wow, this is actually, the CBD and THC is really helping my anxiety. So I kind of started to experiment on my own recreationally of what worked well for me and my anxiety.
Sure.
Fast forward to the pandemic. I think everyone can agree there was a time period of us going through a time where we're reflecting on ourselves, and
For sure.
and there's lots of time with yourself and lots of time to reflect on the past. And so with that, I was actually diagnosed during the pandemic, I was diagnosed with PTSD, major depressive disorder, and ADHD. And with that, I also have anxiety. So
Yeah. Super fun combination.
lots of great mental illness. Give it up for mental illness. But that's just that's the reality of it. Is
Totally.
When I was 17, there was some things that happened beforehand, but when I was 17, my mom died. And it was very traumatic.
Of course.
She actually died in front of me, and it's
really?
it's a whole, it's PTSD, right?
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
so
Severely.
when you have PTSD, and I should have trigger warning this, but
We'll add a note.
we'll add a
Yeah.
trigger warning. But with PTSD, a lot of everyone experienced it differently. Everyone has a different experience. So with mine, it comes with the flashbacks, with the ties to the depression, things like that.
Yeah.
So when I was 17, they just started giving me anti-anxiety pills, right? And and I was fortunate and privileged enough to be able to get therapy after a bit and kind of like really work on the PTSD, which a lot of folks don't have the opportunity and privilege to work through.
For sure.
When with that, I was able to find cannabis, and cannabis, unlike the medication I take, cannabis is something that makes me feel like normal, like
Totally.
a human. It makes
Totally.
me feel like I feel happier, I feel lighter. And it's something that I think not a lot of people really understand, because mental health, right, is such,
Oh, yeah.
people don't see the pain, they can only empathize, right?
Well, and I think that the mental health thing goes into, like, the homeless population as well, and the homeless outreach as well. I mean, a huge portion of, like, our homeless population here in Utah especially is people with, like, mental health disorders.
Yeah.
And, like, that's another thing that's not being touched on,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know that it's just very interesting because, the whole demonization of marijuana and cannabis has been just a big propaganda campaign, because it's like, we have like medication that's, prescription medication that's like legal. Like, I don't know, Adderall is basically just like legal meth that they give to kids.
Right.
Adderall is one molecule, I think, away from
Meth.
meth. Yeah, it's really, and
it's like,
kids can get that.
Yeah, you'll
right?
give that to
It's
kids,
scary.
but you won't let people like smoke or even, vape or do it however they want to do it, like a plant that grows on the earth. Like,
Yeah.
Which it's like, Adderall is cool for some people, but it's like also if you can treat something like PTSD or chronic pain or what have you with something more natural like a plant, why not? And why it's like, it's just the demonization of like one thing compared with the other. And I mean, that goes into the whole war on drugs thing, and we could talk for a long time about
the
that
gateway
too.
drug kind of like stigma around
Yeah, exactly.
that, but not other things like opioids and stuff. And it's like, that's probably more of a gateway drug than fucking marijuana
Opioids is for sure, which, I mean, the opioid crisis, especially here in Utah, again, is another thing that we could talk about for a long time. But, so tell us about, like, how you found the dispensary you're working at now, how you got involved, all that shit, and maybe, like, what made you want to go down that path, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So, and just real quick on the opioid thing.
Go.
I've had multiple patients tell me when I hand them their medical cannabis, they look me in the eyes and they tell me that they have been on opioids for X amount of years, and that didn't help, and all it did was deteriorate their body, and now they have medical cannabis that's a natural plant, a natural healing medicine that's actually taking their pain away.
Right.
So it's super important that, I think it's so good that the state of Utah has recognized that it's medical.
No, for real.
Sure.
For real. And it was a fight to get there, but
It was.
I'm glad that we have at least, a few or one or however many dispensaries now, like, that you can actually get medical cannabis now.
Yeah. So I kind of went on a tangent about
it's fine.
cannabis. It's so easy to, but
That's our whole thing.
Yeah.
coming from Oregon to here, I was having serious anxiety, serious depression. It was really bad, and that's where I was like, okay, I'm gonna go talk to a QMP, a qualified medical professional. The state of Utah has a list of them on the state of Utah website. If you just type in Utah medical cannabis, there's a list of folks, doctors you can go meet with, and if you have a qualified condition, which is also on listed on the website, then you're able to go in and talk to that doctor. You can be honest with them and say, I've used cannabis in the past, and it has helped me tremendously. X, Y, and Z. You can tell them, and that's what I did. I said, I have so much anxiety, and it's, kind of open up to them. Anxiety and depression are unfortunately not categorized as a chronic or as a illness in the state of Utah. However,
or just with medical marijuana?
With medical marijuana.
Got it.
Yeah, unfortunately. However, I do have other qualifying conditions. I do see cannabis as treating my depression and anxiety.
For sure.
Yeah. So I got into cannabis that way, kind of learning more about myself. And naturally, as I went to the pharmacy, we try to stay away from a dispensary.
Got it. Okay,
and,
good to know.
Yeah,
good to know.
Because, and I have to correct myself sometimes. The difference is a dispensary is an experience where you go in, right?
Right.
You go, you get what you need. The pharmacy is like you go into Walgreens. We have to check there's a long process to get the card to. Once you get the card and everything, I mean, it's not a long process, but it is a process.
Totally, for sure.
Definitely a privilege to be able to afford. It's something that's actually our pharmacy and other pharmacies work on is patient coalitions, because there is no insurance that will cover medical cannabis because it's federally illegal. Right. So there's coalitions, luckily, that are starting. It's crazy, and it's sad how many
I just never even thought about that, but that's I mean, which I could go off, but it's just like, how are you legalizing something? Well, to an extent, you're legalizing it medically and literally having pharmacies where you can get this medical thing, but insurance won't cover it because it's federally illegal, kind of, except it's also kind of legal. Like,
it's weird. I'm okay off not being medicated on cannabis. I'm okay. I can survive off of my Walgreens pills.
Sure.
But it's sad that I can't go to, let's say I want to fly to Illinois. I can't bring my medicine with me because it's federally illegal.
That's some fucking shit.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Until it is recognized federally,
right,
the medical industry is gonna boom, and so is the recreational. But recognizing the difference between the two, of like, everyone should be able to get marijuana, cannabis, weed in the recreational way, for lots of reasons. And the other side, though, is it should be available medically everywhere for everyone. We have a pharmacist on staff that you can ask questions to. I mean, we've had 80-year-old people who have never used cannabis before in their life, and they have cancer.
Right.
They need someone to walk them through how to use cannabis. They can't walk into a dispensary. Maybe maybe bud tenders at a dispensary will know, but being trained and being under that umbrella of a medical pharmacy.
Right, where it's more specific.
Yeah, and there's folks that come in and they can't or won't vape, and we have options for them, tinctures, edibles. We even have balms So,
Wow.
yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah, it's nice when you have like a pharmacist and not just like some guy named Chad.
Chad?
It's like,
Yeah, what do
he's
you
like,
want,
this sativa,
man?
my guy, it's so fucking sick.
Before
Like,
you even said Chad, I was like, Chad.
Chad.
fucking
It's
give it
always
Chad, dude.
Chad. Yeah.
So do you feel like the dispensary the creation and rise of dispensaries, I guess, has like detracted from the medical what's the right wording? Detracted from like the medical side of cannabis / marijuana at all? Like, do you feel like because of that, like the FDA or whomever has less of a chance of recognizing cannabis more as a medicine because there is this like, yeah, dude, kind of like
Recreational
side of it, yeah.
Sure. I think there's a couple things to that. One is educating and advocating for cannabis. I think a lot of states went medical before they went recreational too. Right. So I guess it is hard to say because there is that stigma, right?
Sure.
Of this, what do you want, man? What's gonna, people are gonna be like, what gets you the most high? And I think just still having that fine line of medical and recreational in the States, maybe at the federal level, they'll see that as a tester. Yeah. That's how I could see it playing out.
Sure.
Or at least federally making it medical.
Right.
Maybe could be the first step as well.
Totally. Yeah.
There's lots of options. Of course, though, in my unprofessional anarchist opinion, they're going to do anything they want to get that coin because they're seeing how much money it's making. You know why Utah is medical?
Yep.
It's because they're seeing how much money it's bringing in.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it really comes down to it. That's why they're gonna, it'll be interesting coming this fall to see what's on the bills because they're gonna look at it being rec, I think, because businesses, the medical businesses, medical cannabis businesses get taxed 40%.
Right.
Yeah.
40%.
That's nuts.
And it's expensive.
Yeah.
But they're making money because
ton of money.
it's needed. It's it's wanted. And
yeah, exactly.
so it's hard to of course be like, will they see it as medical? Maybe not, because they're probably gonna just see that dollar bills in the of like the rec side.
Yeah.
I think regardless, there will always be medical cannabis for sure, even if the feds make it recreational. But yeah, I do think it's interesting. We live in a really interesting time. Because if you think about it, our parents were a part of the quote war on drugs. First of all, the fuck is that? We already know the fuck the war on drugs is. It's the war on black and brown people.
Yup, amen.
So, not, obviously we could get way into that.
Absolutely.
But
that's what I was going to mention is like and this isn't even really a topic discussion, but it's just a shame that, there are even recreational dispensaries that are open now, yet there's so many people that are still doing life sentences for nonviolent drug crimes, or associated with marijuana. It's
exactly.
Again, there's people who can just go down to the store and buy it in Oregon and everywhere else, Colorado, but it's like, then, everywhere else people are still serving life sentences. And it's like, how fucked up is that?
40,000 people.
Jesus Christ. Which even in the states where it's both recreational and medically legal, there are people serving life sentences for marijuana still. Which I feel like is a good thing to kind of segue into another piece of this, which is the Last Prisoner Project, which is something that you had mentioned to me, which I think sounds fucking amazing. So just tell us all about that and how you're involved and just what they do, everything.
Yeah,
jump into it.
Listen, lastprisonerproject.org, Last Prisoner Project on Instagram, everything. Check them out. They are a nonprofit that focuses on educating and advocating for cannabis clemency and freeing every last cannabis prisoner.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So that's their whole their thing is we will not rest until every last cannabis prisoner is free.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing they touch on though with that, which is they're just amazing. Last Prisoner Project not only educates and advocates for reform, right,
Mm-hmm.
and for freeing the prisoners, but they also raise funds and allocate funds for families for prisoners.
Oh, wow.
Because we all know the prisoner industrial complex is,
Yup.
once you're in there, it's hard to get the fuck out.
Yeah, for sure.
The system was not built to help these folks.
Yup.
So once they're in for a non-violent fucking marijuana crimes, they can't, there's examples of plenty of BIPOC that are in prison for carrying an eighth.
Right.
Yeah.
In California.
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
still in prison.
Exactly.
So
The land of weed.
it's ridiculous. So the Last Prisoner Project, yeah, they really focus on helping the families, helping the those folks once they're out of incarceration.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and what pharmacies, actually all across pharmacies and dispensaries and businesses across the nation can partner with the Last Prisoner Project and donate monthly funds to them.
Cool.
Yeah, and a lot of what comes with it is not only donating to them, is what, we focus on definitely donating and trying to help what we can, but also so important to educate, especially if I tell our teammates every month or every monthly meeting, we have a moral and ethical obligation to be the voice of Last Prisoner Project.
Truth.
Of these folks that
Truth.
are incarcerated over what? Over bullshit crimes
Yeah.
they're in there for 30 years.
Right.
For what? It's just it's ridiculous. And so I mean, obviously I can go on and get angry about
Oh yeah.
it, but it's so important, especially I will never not every pharmacist, every bud tender, every dispensary, everyone involved in cannabis and marijuana should support Last Prisoner Project.
Totally.
Because you're making money off of something they are in prison for.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well put.
And it's just the fact that they're still there, it's not talked about enough, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
So
Like, even if you're not radical, it's like, I feel like any normal person
Yeah.
can just be like, hey, that's kind of fucked up.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very simple thing that you can look at and
Yeah.
be like, these two things ain't adding up. Like,
Yeah.
how are we having this billion-dollar industry, and at where, like I was saying, like we've all been saying this whole episode, where it's like it is legal in parts of this country, and in those same places where things are legal, people are still in prison serving sentences for that, and you can't fucking bring your legal medicine on a plane with you. Like, that's another thing that I just am like.
But Phoebe, you know what won't unjustly imprison 40,000 Americans?
Is it products and services?
Yes, the advertisements on the show.
Yeah, advertisers have never been known to do anything crooked ever.
I'm pretty sure that, again, I mentioned this on a previous episode, capitalism is perfect.
And has never,
mistaken.
nothing wrong has ever been happened under capitalism.
Anyway, we'll be right back.
Ad break. We're back.
We are back.
Hey, everyone.
We, of course, are back with our guest for
Rylee.
the episode,
hello,
Rylee.
hello.
So one more quick question before we move on here is regarding medical marijuana, and specifically in the state we all live in, which is Utah.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of restrictions has the state put on obtaining medical marijuana?
And then, like, follow-up to that, I guess, would be, what would you want to... One thing, because I'm sure there's lots, one thing you would want to change about the medical marijuana, like... I don't know if industry is the right word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, what do you think the next step is, I guess?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so, there's a couple things that could and should happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think the first thing that will make everything easier in the state of Utah, but also everywhere, just it being federal. That's just really it being recognized. I'm hoping there'll be a point of time where I will be able to fly on my plane with my medicine.
Yeah.
So, but until then, it's kind of up to the state of Utah with the medical side. So far, you have to go to a qualified medical professional, a QMP, like I mentioned. So, not just any doctor, right?
Sure.
And once you talk with them, you do have to pay a range from $150 to $250 for the medical card. So that right there brings up a lot of issues, right?
Totally.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Not everyone can afford that, and not everyone has the privilege to throw down $250 and then...
Is the QMP covered by insurance? Do you know?
It is not. So, nothing, because it's not federally recognized, there can't be any insurance coverage.
Sure.
With that, luckily, with my pharmacy and a lot of other pharmacies in Utah, they have coalitions that are set up where the pharmacy and patients are able to donate money to that coalition, and that coalition will start a process of applicants and taking folks that need that financial support for the medicine.
That's really cool.
Well, mutual aid action.
Yeah, one might call it.
Yeah, we love to see it. It's so great. I think pharmacies opened in 2020, so we're just still seeing a lot of... I mean, they're all startups, right? So we're just kind of seeing more organization come together within the pharmacies. So now we're starting to see this more, coalition, mutual aid. That's really awesome and helpful for those folks that can't afford their medicine. I mean, let's be honest, it's expensive.
Totally.
It's definitely amazing that we have access to the medical cannabis, but it's also expensive. So to kind of go back, $250, $150 around there.
For the card.
Yeah, well, that's just for the appointment.
Oh.
So that's $15 for the card.
Got it.
Yeah.
And that's through... I think also, I have to look back, but I think it's either I think you pay the $15 with the state.
Yeah.
Sure.
So you get that appointment, you get the $15 with the state, and then you get a card, like a kind of just a basic, paper card emailed to you, right? So then you have your patient number, and you are able to you have to meet with a pharmacist. After that, you're able to go and shop and buy your medicine at the pharmacies, at any pharmacy.
Sure.
So there's definitely hurdles. I think the other hurdle is, there's a list of qualifying conditions and IMO. What should and shouldn't qualify, because there is a lot of research behind cannabis and behind different methods, different use of cannabis for different people,
things,
so it's definitely
and it's hard because I don't necessarily I mean, ideally, I feel like we would use mostly just the medicine that comes from the earth and whatnot. But it's like, we think of like other medicines that come from plants, like even fucking like Tylenol and shit.
Right.
You can buy a giant bottle of that at the store for like $3.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's fucked up because it's like the positives outweigh the negatives for this medicine almost even more so than even like something like Tylenol, yet the process is still so difficult to like get a medical card.
Yeah. Do you, I mean, I don't know off the top of your head, but do you know like some of the qualifying what's the word? Qualifying conditions?
Yeah, so chronic pain, there's certain, I don't know exactly, but there's definitely cancer, you know, there's, like, for example, when California was medical, my grandfather had cancer and could not eat anything because of chemo, and they had him on medical cannabis to help him eat.
Right.
So there's one example. Epilepsy is also, I've also heard patient stories of how epilepsy has helped grand mal seizures.
Wow.
So
actually, I've seen like I think I was like watching a documentary or something about like medical cannabis, and I remember like it was like this little kid who was like 7 or something. He was young and he was having grand mal seizures and would take a tincture and would like almost immediately calm down out of his seizure and be able to like come back and be like coherent again. It's like crazy how this shit is so, it's like a miracle drug, literally.
It really is. Please meet with your doctor or do not take medical advice from us. But
good thing to mention. I did not even think of that. Yeah.
Like,
we're not saying anything. True. Seek a medical professional first.
I do, in fact, and so does Phoebe, have a PhD, but we are not doctors.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. We don't have our doctorates yet.
I'm actually, just an agent is my title, so I can't. I'm like a secret agent, you know?
A secret medical cannabis agent.
Exactly.
What the government doesn't want you to know.
Exactly.
Should we segue into some outreach stuff?
Yeah, definitely.
We absolutely should.
Cool.
I think that's an amazing idea.
Yeah. So Rylee, you're involved with a local outreach group. I know that they've done, like going out and feeding unsheltered, gathering clothes and stuff like that. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about the group that you're involved with and some of the stuff that they do. Sorry, I feel like I stole your question, Tayler.
It's fine. It's a good question.
Yeah, so I am a part of SLRM, Salt Lake Equal Rights Movement. We are a group that ultimately focuses on just that, equal rights. And our first and foremost focus is Black Lives Matter, period. We do everything to support the Black Lives Matter movement, and so that being our main focus, I think, of course, there's an umbrella of issues, right, of inequality, and that disproportionately affects Black and brown folks. And one of those is the unsheltered community we have here in Salt Lake. I mean, it's an issue everywhere, right? The housing crisis. There's lots that tie into why there are folks on the street. And it's because the system was not built to help these folks. The system was built to keep them there.
Truth. So
with that, we focus on kind of what we can do, what we can do as a community, and how we can bring together resources for our unsheltered neighbors. Because at the end of the day, we're all part of this. We're all human beings. We're all just trying to fucking make it in this world.
Yeah.
So everyone deserves food, housing, water.
Yeah.
So when we go out, we do try to go out on Sundays. We call it Sunday service, and We did it mostly throughout this last summer. Our focus was getting good meals, trying to get not just preservative foods, but focusing on hot meals, like fresh cooked meals, barbecue for the unsheltered community. And when we would go out, we want to make sure people are feeling loved and welcomed. And because society has what's the word, brainwashed us into dehumanizing folks.
Yes, it's so true.
And so, we were conditioned to walk down the street and ignore the people on the street, and that's fucked up.
Yeah. Or I feel like I always see it as this, like, scare tactic thing for, like, kids that are acting out or whatever it is. It's like, you don't want to end up like this person.
Yep.
Or even just, like, the idea of, like, well, you give $1 to this person on the side of the road, and then you just don't, because, it's like, here's, the money or my charity, and then you, like, keep driving, and it's like, they're human. They have thoughts, feelings, opinions.
Yeah.
So I feel like giving them, talking with them and respecting them as a human goes a long way.
Yeah. And we really wanted to not only focus our Sunday services on providing meals and clean, fresh water and whatever we could, blankets, for them, but it's also having conversations, going out, asking folks, hey, what's your name? What, I like your shoes, like having those conversations is so important because we don't, we're literally birthed and we are we go right to our mama's chest. We go human connection, right? Mm-hmm. We gotta go back to that core. Yeah. Because these folks, there's a lot of bad in the world. There's a lot of negativity. There's a lot of that's going against people, especially folks on the street. Yeah. People don't understand how hard it is to get out. They just don't. Like, it's not like you can just go get a job. Right. You have to have an ID. Guess what? It costs, what, $25 to get an ID? Where are you going to get that $25? Because no one's going to give it to you because they assume, you're going to use it for drugs and this and that.
Well, and
it's bullshit. I get a phone, most likely.
Yeah, you need a phone. You need a phone number where they can reach you. You have to put an address on your fucking application or whatever. Like, literally a home address. You can't have a job if you don't have an address that you can put on an application.
Yeah. I mean, there's it's just like medical cannabis, and it's just like anything else. There's, in the system, there's obstacles. There's, and it's what we focus on is hopefully, like, connecting with people, having those conversations and, like, really, like, building people up and just, making sure they know they're loved. Because, everyone deserves to know they're loved, especially out, out in this cold world. So we definitely, we do what we try to do what we can. We're always trying to get organized so we can do more, especially for this winter. Because
absolutely.
It's hard. Making sure there's tents, blankets, fuel cans, making sure we got hot meals. Things like that. So we're definitely trying to get organized so that we can really make sure that we're there for the community this winter, because it gets cold. And as the climates have been acting funky, we don't, who knows, it's probably gonna be, it might be, like, horrible, might be, we just don't know.
Well, we had, like, Texas freezing over last year. We've got hurricanes literally happening right now. Like, nobody knows what the climate's going to look like this winter, and it's fucking rough.
Even just, like, the past couple of weeks here, like, it's been 90 degrees, and then we've had these giant floods that happen. Like, it's insane. And it's like, if you're living out in the elements, like, that's...
Moab was flooding.
Exactly.
It was scary shit.
It's crazy. Well, and last year, too, we had a really bad windstorm here that was, like, it was hurricane winds, like, hurricane speed winds here that, like, there was a guy who, I, like, went out, I think it was with Storm, or I think it was just, like, a group of people, but we, like, went out the next day after that windstorm to, like, help the unsheltered figure out what the fuck, and, like, this guy was arguing with I think either one of, like, the, what are they? It's not the sanitation department, but who's the fucking assholes that are always out there being assholes?
The health department?
Yeah, the health department. This guy, one of the unsheltered folks on the street, was arguing with this person that worked for the health department and being like, did you have a tree branch fall through your house and rip your house and ruin your house last night? No, but I did, because my house is a tent. Like, that's it for my shelter now. Like, a tree branch literally fell on me, woke me up, and now my tent is completely ruined. Like, I can't use it anymore. And it's like, did that fucking happen to you, dude? No.
And that just goes back to empathy, right?
Yes.
And why we have, what's the core of having these conversations is being empathetic. And that's the other hard part, is the city is constantly dehumanizing these folks.
Yep.
There are abatements that are pushing them every other day.
Yes.
And it's like and there again comes the obstacles, you know. People think, oh, they can just go to a shelter.
Right.
No, they can't.
Nope.
What you gotta, you know, there's obstacles to get in the shelter. What if you have a partner?
Yeah.
You know, they won't let you go in the shelter. So it's just constantly, this, what can we do to just help them out?
Yeah.
Like, because they're just, I mean, like, not like you said, like, they're not only just, their home is on the street, but they are constantly dealing with these extreme climates. Like, we just had a crazy rainstorm, and people were getting pushed during the rains, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, people are getting pushed in 107-degree weather. People are getting pushed in negative, whatever, 10 weather when it's snowing.
Well, and the thing, too, is that it's like these areas where these folks will, like, set up their tents and whatever it is, it's like, that in itself becomes a community. All those people stay together in order to, like, support each other, and they have shared resources of, like, well, I have this pot and pan, and you have this thing. Let's help each other cook a meal or whatever it is. And when you're pushing that and breaking all of that up, you're constantly breaking up these people. Basically, it's their neighborhood. You are breaking up this person's neighborhood and this infrastructure that they themselves have created. So, like, it's more than just you got to pick up your tent and move it to the other side of the street. It's like, now we have to rebuild this entire thing that we were working on for X amount of weeks or however long the cops allowed them to have.
Yep. And they just are constantly not even, like, given the chance sometimes to pick up their tent. They're just, their tents are thrown away.
Exactly.
It's their home. Like, it's awful.
One of the relocations that happened, I had gone down there. I went to, like, Savers the night before and bought, like, a bunch of those, like, hard suitcases, and I went and, like, took them down there. Because, like, they just take all their shit and just throw it away. And it's like, you know, and especially when you have accumulated a certain amount of things, it's like, it takes time to move all of your stuff. So it's like, just... And
shit that you need to survive. Like, everybody needs forks and knives, clothes, you know, all that shit. That it's like, you need a lot of things in order to survive as a human being, especially if you don't have a roof over your head. Yeah. So, like, that's a lot of shit to transport everywhere.
It is.
That you need. You need it.
Yeah, it definitely, it's an issue. It's bad that the city just, like, won't help them. They just are constantly making it worse.
It's some shit.
Well, and I mean, you know, classic capitalism. If you can't be productive in society. It's funny because they always, like, people always say that about, like, socialist governments, where they're like, if you're not productive, they won't give you health care or whatever. And it's like, we don't do that either.
Yeah.
If you aren't making money, then, like, the government doesn't give a fuck about you.
The government doesn't even recognize you as a human being
Exactly.
anymore. Ugh. Do you have another outreach question?
Yeah.
Yes.
In what areas have you seen the most need in the community? And then also, what has the community been able to accomplish the best, you would say? Or what needs have you been able to fulfill? And then, which areas do you think still need work and help with, I guess?
All of it.
Yeah.
To all of the credit.
True.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But for real, like, I think definitely touching on the unsheltered community ties to the housing crisis. So I think these damn luxury apartment complexes are ridiculous, and they're just building, and so I think focusing on what you can do with your voice is definitely one of the first and most important things. It's not just only posting and making your voice active, because I think you should. I think it's important to say Black Lives Matter.
Totally.
Every day. Like, if you see, I think it's important to put that out there on your social media. I think it's important to say it out loud. I think it's important to wear it, because having those conversations and, starting that is really what it's gonna boil down to. Sorry, I'm kind of getting into a...
No.
Please do.
Get into it.
It just... That's, like, the main focus. And so coming back to, the unsheltered community, just, like, focusing on that and the housing crisis, and then Black Lives Matter, all of these tie together.
It's true, yeah.
And so I think, going back to, like, putting your voice out there, not just on social media, but getting out there, going to protests, being a body, being a voice out there, being a name on a petition, being a name on an email to your mayor, to your city council. I think people don't realize how much power their voice does have, because that's what community is about, and that's what community is pushing that narrative of community. And thinking your voice doesn't matter is wrong, because your voice is the community, and it matters. So I think checking ourselves, of course, always being accountable for what we say, for always being actively anti-racist within ourselves, like doing that active work, and then also doing the work of making your voice heard to like out there on the streets, out there on paper. And so that in itself, but also joining us on, like, Slurm at these protests. For example, a way to get involved is going to protests. Like I said, we have a couple protests lined out for September, focused on the unsheltered community, and focused on DACA. I mean, that's a whole other thing. Is immigration. Biden hasn't done shit with immigration, and it's still at Trump level rates of deportations. So that one in itself, there's always going to be issues. There's always going to be things fighting for. So I think just making sure you're taking care of yourself, because as long as always take care, do your work, do your thing, take care of you, and take care of your mental health, find that, but finding that uncomfortable zone of getting out there and, like, just, if you're tired, like, just keep going, like, making sure that our voices are heard as a community, as a collective. If
everybody didn't say anything, then no one would say anything. So
exactly.
You gotta do it together.
Yeah. Well, and like you were saying, to touch on your thing of, like, how this stuff is all connected and everything, like, I don't know who said the quote or exactly how it was, but it was something of, like, until the most oppressed person is liberated, we don't actually have liberation.
Period.
Yeah.
True.
So, yes. You know what is liberating?
Capitalism.
Yeah.
Very liberating.
The most liberating. We're going to take another ad break.
We're back.
Here we are. Cool. Well, kind of our last little question to you is just, what are some of the things that have opened your eyes to the horrors of capitalism, and that have radicalized you?
Oh, there's a
It's a big
lot.
question.
It is a big question. I think the whatever you want to call it, kind of like the resurrection or kind of relifting of Black Lives Matter last June of 2020 when George Floyd was brutally murdered.
Yeah.
I think everyone had I guess I shouldn't speak for everyone. Obviously, not everyone.
You're not
was
the
great
ambassador
about
of
that.
the world. 'Cause I was under the impression you
Yeah.
represented everyone.
That's what we had you on here for.
Yeah. I represent the entire world as the queen of the world.
Exactly.
No, I guess I will speak for myself. That was just such a heart-wrenching, horrible fucking moment
Yeah.
that was like a slap of the face. That was like, this is what the world we fucking live in.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
you know. And so in that, I was like so angry and so frustrated. I was like, what the fuck am I gonna do about it? Like, I can't just sit here
Yeah.
and be angry. So that was just one moment where I was like, you know, I really started reading a lot more about, you know, like the color of law, red zoning, and started kind of just start reading Me and White Supremacy, just trying to like really read more and understand and educate myself, and then with that trying to be active in the community. It definitely, you know, I'm definitely not perfect by any means, and I'm definitely not like, wouldn't say I'm like this big activist, because I've definitely had my mental health struggles, like, you know,
Sure.
and like,
I mean, all of
oh
us
my,
do.
yeah, for sure. And
Living
it's-
under the capitalist
Yeah.
regime, how can you not?
Exactly.
Literally,
yeah.
is a system that forces you to not make change
Yeah.
because you're always tired from
Yeah.
working.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, and like, and that's it, having that empathy of like being like, all right, you know, we want to make change, but how do we make change? How do we make, you know, like, or make ourselves okay to go make change? And so
Yeah.
I think like doing a lot of work and like kind of like radicalizing like myself, and kind of like realizing like the inequalities I've gone through, my own inequalities, I've seen inequality. I mean, obviously just watched on the news, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the fact
Yeah.
that happened, you know, it's just, it just goes to show, like, going back to our voices matter.
Yeah.
And our individual voices matter. Us saying Black Lives Matter. Us saying that there are inequalities in the world, and that we need to speak up about them,
Right,
and that
right.
we need to see change.
Right.
Because that's really what it comes down to is,
Yeah.
you know, seeing the problem, want to become a part of the solution. And so I think, yeah, it definitely is like made me radicalize and made me realize,
Totally.
you know,
Totally.
and then I, with that, like going out in the community and doing the work with the unsheltered community, and seeing that, you know, this is a product of a capitalist society.
Yeah.
Because like I said before, the system was not built to help them. The system was built to keep them there, and
Yeah.
to kick them while they're down, to
Right.
you know, not treat them like human beings.
Right.
Like
I
they
would
are.
go so far as to say the system was created to make them. Like, this,
Yeah,
I would
to
say
create them. those
one
kind
of
people.
like one of the main products of the system is unsheltered folks.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I mean, it's a system that needs somebody to be exploited for other people to be the exploiters. So
Exactly.
it's like,
Exactly.
whether it's workers, whether it's people who can't afford housing, whatever it is, it's like, for there to be like rich people, there has to be poor people who are suffering.
Right. Exactly.
So
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Case in point.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, yeah, it's hard. It's really hard. So yeah, that was, I think, definitely a couple different moments.
Totally.
And like I said, I'm definitely not perfect, and I'm like constantly, like trying to figure out ways of also like trying to figure out ways I can get involved, how to use my voice and things like that.
Totally.
So yeah, I think, but just as long as we're doing it right, as long as that we are making our voices heard in some way, and that we're like constantly trying to get our voices be heard.
Well, I think a good thing that you said was like talking about these issues. It makes me think about like how at certain like corporate jobs they'll say, oh, don't talk about your wages with your coworkers, da-da-da. That's like in a lot of like even contracts for corporate places.
This is such
and
bullshit.
It's like it is such bullshit.
It's
and
actually
I feel
illegal.
like
You can't tell people to do that.
It's insane.
And
which I think is like, and then when you do talk about your wages with people, it goes to show like the wage inequalities, and I think that works as well for just like life inequalities. The system does not want you to actually talk about them so that people are not aware of them, because so many of us like have just been indoctrinated into this. We have no idea what's actually going on because there's little to no information out there, and you're just brainwashed into going through what you go through every day until somebody tells you like, no dude, like this is fucked up actually, and you're like, whoa, hold on, you're right, that is fucked up.
Kind of fucked up.
It is fucked up that there's 40,000 people in prison for marijuana incarcerations when like it's actually legal in certain spots. Yeah.
40,000 people.
Jesus.
And it's, it's the capitalist society is just making money off of them, though.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's just modern day slavery.
Yeah, it is modern day slavery. And it's like, it's crazy that not only are they making money off of people who are incarcerated for marijuana, but they're also making money off of like the marijuana industry. It's just like, fuck you so hard.
And we can't ignore the fact that it's predominantly white owned.
Yep. And yes, exactly.
And we can't, it's so predominantly white folks owning the industry, just in making the money.
Yes.
That's what I was going to even say, is like, how you had mentioned there's 80-year-old people who have never seen marijuana before that are coming in to get medical cannabis. It's like
that
those...
probably voted for Reagan.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Those fuckers.
Yeah. Well,
I'm just kidding. I had to say it though.
That's exactly the thing. Is it's like it's those people that are making these decisions and that are, in charge. It's like they always say like with abortion legislation, it's always like white old dudes that are like talking about women's bodies.
Yeah, that it's like what like justifications do you have even about this, or like connections do you even have to this thing? And I think it's also worth mentioning, like, the disproportion of the people that are serving these marijuana incarcerations are black and brown folks. Like,
exactly.
Disproportionately black. Yeah, and it's really, really awful to read about these families and these folks that are there for 30 years and they miss, even when they're out, they miss 30 years of their lives for something that we are now profiting off of as a state, as a government, as I'm I'm literally a product of that. So it's super important to recognize that. I'm very thankful that my pharmacy recognizes them, and it's those it's those organizations too, where it's like you can take action with them,
right?
They have letter writing programs for the folks incarcerated.
The coalition for helping lower income with the visits and whatnot. I'm sure you can get involved in that.
You definitely can. So it's all right, all comes back to the community and the small things we can do in the community. Like that.
Speaking of which, tell us about how we can get involved with SLRM, with Last Prisoner Project, with anything.
Yeah, that's great. So Last Prisoner Project, I would definitely recommend following them on Instagram, on social media, checking out their website. They have just such great stories and information about the folks, great, statistics. They really, really do their work. And so start out by, I think, I always like to share their stories because I think it's like, again, not enough people are talking about that.
Right, the human
issue.
aspect of it, like, which I think it was interesting you bringing up, like, the families of the people that are incarcerated. It's like, you don't think about that part of it. Like, somebody sitting in prison obviously is horrible and life is horrible for them, but also, like, their families are suffering as well.
That's a whole income.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Whole income, especially if they have children as well. It's like they're just single parents now that are...
It's a whole person, a whole parent. That's a whole human that is missing out because of what?
Exactly.
Again, because of what? It's so there's also, you mentioned the humanizing, kind of like talking about like the people that are suffering. There's the letter writing program that's really great.
And that's through Last Prisoner Project?
Yeah,
okay,
it is.
cool.
And you can, start writing letters. And it's really popular. They really enjoy it because they don't get a lot of letters.
Sure.
And, there's also, you can donate, and those donations go towards bail, towards the families, towards educating, a couple different things. They actually also have some great, like I mentioned before, they have great stories. They have ambassadors that were incarcerated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And that talk about their stories. So I think definitely just checking them out.
Cool.
And then with Slurm, we're doing our protests every Sunday this September. Too many dates.
Yes.
Too many things. So this September, every Sunday we're going to do a protest focused on equal rights and issues going on here in Salt Lake.
That's great.
Not only, but of course they're big, if they're here in Salt Lake, they're out there everywhere. Like the unsheltered community, homophobic comments, or homophobia and just in general. Lots of inequality. So check us out. Slurm Utah is our Instagram page.
I can double check.
I'll
double check while you're talking.
While I we just started a new one, so I'm like, I think it's Slurm Utah, but we also have a Facebook page that's Slurm Salt Lake Equal Rights Movement. We try to share.
That top one?
Yes, that's it. Okay,
it is at Slurm SLERM Utah on Instagram.
Perfect, and that's what it should be on Facebook as well. But we try to do calling campaigns, protests, and then Sunday services. So
if somebody wanted to get involved with like Sunday service, how would they go about that?
I think messaging us first, DMing us on Instagram. But we're going to work on definitely the month of September. We're going to take some time to reorganize as a group and kind of focus on the protests, but also the winter months, kind of like really figure out some things. Focus on, all right, what do we need to focus on? I mean, of course, there's so many things, but it's like,
what's our main issues?
Right.
Where, like, if I have clothes or water bottles or whatever it is, like, items to donate to your group, or any group, like, where can I donate items?
I would say message us. Definitely message us on Instagram, and we'll coordinate a pickup time or coordinate some sort of drop off. And then I think COVID mutual aid groups, another group.
Love them.
They're
I believe Open Air Shelter too.
Open Air Shelter,
really
Shelter. There's some great groups. That's another thing is we want to promote as well those groups that are organizing.
Totally.
Of course.
because it's not just us. It takes,
Takes a lot.
Black Lives Matter Utah, Rep Utah. They're definitely, all just such great organizations in this community that they're important in doing the work.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Because there's so much
a village, quite literally.
It's a good community. I think Salt Lake is really had this new growth and new awakening of inequalities, and I think it's it's gonna be a constant uphill battle, but as long as we can organize as a community and really get shit done.
Yeah. And I mean, doing anything is like radical, like helping feed the unsheltered or what have you, or using your voice, like that is revolutionary.
True. And get involved in your own area, I would say. Like, we obviously are in Utah, so we know the things around here. Yes. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's difficult to Google groups in your area.
Mutual aid groups.
Yeah, mutual aid. Find advocacy groups in your...
Yeah, there's places. You just gotta look for them is the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's, if you're not in Utah, do that.
Yes.
And give your money to those places, because...
Exactly.
that's what's cool. Don't, the advertisements we were talking about, don't buy them.
Yeah.
Give your money to these groups.
Although I think our one advertisement is a free service, at least
for sure.
There's probably in-app purchase shit. But anyway, give your money to the people that need it. We do ads because we need money for certain things. So
we do ads because it doesn't cost y'all anything.
Exactly.
You can skip
over P-Zone?
Anyway, we're in the P-Zone.
P-Zone. Plug some shit. So, as we said, the Instagram for Slurm is SLERM Utah on Instagram. Last Prisoner Project. Is it just that whole thing? Last Prisoner Project on Instagram?
Yeah.
Okay, and then lastprisonerproject.org is their website.
Yeah.
Sweet. Do you have anything else you want to plug?
I think, those organizations that we kind of mentioned earlier.
Open Air Shelter, SLC COVID Mutual Aid.
Black Lives Matter Utah, Rep Utah, Mutual, did you say Mutual Aid?
Yeah, SLC Mutual Aid.
Yeah, and there's more, there's so many great ones, and I think just supporting any and every organization that is doing the work and follow them on Instagram. I think social media is just such an important platform. Like,
it's
to
a
get
good
started,
tool. It's a very good tool
to find out what's going on.
Yeah, I mean that's where you can find out about protests or outreach efforts or when are we doing a big donation thing or stuff like that. So just, good one for sure.
Like filter,
Yes,
and like don't go, like me and get depressed when you sit there and scroll.
Take some time. Don't doom scroll, but
doom scroll. I love that.
Take care of yourself. Well, our Instagram is at Remarks Podcast, REMARX. No, wait, no, it's not. Is it? Hold on now. Why do I literally every single time?
Well, I do know that the Twitter is at Remarks Pod, P-O-D. So
yes, I'm right.
Our REMARXPOD is the Twitter account.
Yes. Our Instagram account, I am correct, is at Remarks Podcast. That is also our TikTok account where we have 2 whole videos.
I love it. And I do have a YouTube channel as well called The Lefty Agenda. You can check out. I just make longer, not even longer, and they're shorter, but they're like scripted videos. Yeah. And then did we want to do our shout out?
Oh, yeah. I don't know if anybody played.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I don't even remember what we did. It was
George Bush. Yeah, nobody played.
Wow, no one played the
game.
Guys,
do you care?
It was kind of a rough episode.
It was a rough episode.
As far as, like, listens go.
Yeah, so, listen to our last episode.
Do we want to do a shout-out question?
For this one? Yeah. I would say, just tag your favorite, like, outreach organization, whether it doesn't have to be, like, local to Utah, wherever you're at, just tag whatever, like, outreach organization you like.
Yeah, just let us know.
Yeah.
So we can, bump them as well.
Truth.
So, bump them to our 30 listeners.
Yeah. That's mostly our friends.
Yeah,
We're getting out there. We are.
Yeah.
We have
Anyway.
like out of country people according to our analytics.
Yeah,
which is
we've got like
pretty
people
Oh,
in Finland.
We.
I don't know where they're from.
We're famously, we love the French.
Yeah.
We've never talked
shit
bad
on the
about
French.
never mispronounced any French words.
No, every French pronunciation has been completely
Perfect.
on point.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's that, I guess.
I guess we're good.
Cool.
Thank you again for being
Yeah,
on the
thanks
cast.
so much.
Oh, thank you both for having me. I appreciate it. It's been so fun.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
sweet. Well, okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.